thought we would do today is talk about a topic that's been on my mind a little bit. So this is going to be one of my talk videos, and it's not really a review. I've done something similar at some point, but it's just been on my mind, this topic, and I thought it might be of interest. So that's why I ended up recording this. What do I look for in a pen when I select a pen that I say I want to purchase that? What do I look for in a pen? And I have been using fountain pens for a long time now, but I mean, sort of, I don't consider myself a collector. Maybe an accumulator. We've had that discussion before with varying levels of success. But if I decide, this is something I want to check out, why is that? And what do I look for? And after these many long years of using fountain pens, I have found that to me it now comes down to 3 factors. And one you cannot even judge when you look at a website. So, sorry, I think I just fully smacked my microphone. I'm sorry. That time I did it on purpose. Okay. Number 1. Pen has to write. And I've found over the years it's become more and more important to me, to a point that I get quite upset when I purchase a pen and it does not write. Do I purchase a lot of pens? Not really anymore, because I kind of have what I want. But having said that, I review a lot of pens. I get sent a lot of pens. Bear in mind, most of these get sent back, right? But when a company says we're going to make fountain pens, they should create a product that writes. And the number of times I see pens, sometimes in very expensive segments, that do not write, or that do not write properly, I find that very frustrating. Now, I'm not talking about you buy a pen and it writes, but you would like it to be a little wetter, or you would like it to be a little drier, because that's personal preference. I'm talking about a pen that will not write, no matter how many times you clean it, no matter how many different inks you try, it will not write. That's an issue. And I've used this analogy before, but I will use it again. Fountain pen users have come to accept this somehow. And it's strange, because if you were to compare it to a car, if you were to go onto a lot and or a dealership and you buy a car, you say, I want that car. They say, okay, come back 2 weeks from now, we have this car ready for you, whatever. I'm not a car person. We'll have this, and then you're there, and it's a brand new car. It's not pre-owned, it's brand new. So they took 2 weeks to get that car ready for you and put it on a transport and the right paint and all the options that you wanted. You did all that. You forked over the money, or you financed it or whatever, and then you get into the car and you're about to drive it home, and you don't really turn the key anymore, but you press the button and the car starts. But then when you put it in first gear or in drive, nothing happens, because actually the engine doesn't work. Nobody would accept that. There is not a world imaginable where people be like, that's alright, I'm going to have it towed to my home, and then I'm going to have my favorite mechanic come in and he will fine-tune the engine and it's going to be okay. But with fountain pens, we've come to kind of accept that, don't we? We've accepted it. So it's like, oh no, that's okay. Well, it was a $1,000 pen, but at least it's great and it arrived here on time, so let me just send it to a nibmeister. Which is actually kind of weird, that you then are willing to pay more. And it doesn't really matter if it's a $50 pen or a $5,000 pen. If it doesn't write, it doesn't do the one thing that you bought it for. So my first point, notice that I've calmed down now. My first point is it has to write. I could be okay with sending it to a nibmeister, a professional who will tune that nib, will make it right. But it has to write. And I want it to write exactly the way I want it to write. But you can't judge that. So that's an important selection criterion for me, but I can't really use it because let's be fair, most of our pens we buy online these days. And even if you are fortunate enough to have a pen shop near you, you can try it out. But dipping is not the same as filling a pen, because you saturate the feed, it'll write differently. You can't judge it online. You can't judge it online if that pen is going to write. So there is that. kind of related to that, but not the most important to me, is comfort. But I found that unless you have a really peculiar pen, very oddly made or particularly oversized, something like that, most of them are going to be relatively comfortable. Some may be more comfortable to you than to me, or the other way around. But I mean, in principle, most of them are going to be comfortable enough, right? So that I don't really count that as something that's vital for me. It's not part of my 3 things I look for in a fountain pen. So that was writing. Number 2 is vain, and I fully admit it, but it has to look good. And I'm going to show you a couple pens now. So there's some visual appeal beyond my, of course, incredibly gorgeous face. Now, it has to be beautiful to me, and what is beautiful to me may not at all be beautiful to you, but there are a couple options. I'm going to show you 3 things. To me, this Yardelette Viceroy Grand in Victorian finish, made of sterling silver, hand-hammered pattern, is gorgeous. I think this is a beautiful pen, and I absolutely love that. And if a pen is hideous to you, it's probably not going to be fun to write with, right? So it is important, and whether it's diffusion bonded acrylic or silver or ebonite or really colorful acrylics that you like, to you it has to be attractive. Another thing that I find very attractive is, here's an acrylic pen made by Edison Pen Company. I hadn't used this in a while, inked it up again. I love it. Beautiful material. To me it looks like amber. I think it's absolutely great. It's a Collier Grande model. I just love this material. Very, very attractive. And so to me, stood out immediately. And once Brian sent that to me, I thought, okay, well, that's not going back. So I ended up purchasing it. Here's another example. I'm not really an ebonite guy, but I saw this Andrew Lenski, my friend in the Ukraine, hand makes these. He makes smaller ones too. This is very girthy and big, which I like, but I mean, it may not be for you. It's ebonite. Ebonite, typically not my thing. It does have a sort of vintage quality to it. I like it a lot, and it's been very, very comfortable to me. I really like using it. So it does tick that comfort box, but it really, really nice pen that I find very attractive. So now we have writing, and the 3 pens I've just shown you, they all write beautifully. Yes, all out of the box. I got Andrew's pen without a nib, but anyway, the nib I had on it writes beautifully. They write beautifully, and they're all very attractive. To me, to you they may not be, but to me they're very attractive. So that's the second thing I look for in a pen that I might want to get. Like again, this is the last pen I bought, the most recent one I bought. I really don't buy that much anymore, but this one I just want to have. So, what's the third thing? The third thing to me that I have found something is very exciting to me is cool filling systems, and we are starting to see more of these, which I think is really neat. There is nothing wrong with a cartridge converter filled pen. The Yardelette I just held up, cartridge converter. Andrew Lenski's pen, cartridge converter. There's nothing fancy about that system. There's nothing wrong with that system. It's very easy to clean. You can use any bottled ink you like. If the converter breaks, you can put in a new converter. With Andrew's pen, it's a little bit more complicated because he did something to that converter. See the review. But with the Yardelette, if it breaks, I buy another converter. $5, done. No issue, right? Very easy home maintenance. Don't have to worry about anything. But I do like a more exotic filling system. Now, on the Edison, we have a pneumatic filler, which is quite interesting. This doesn't have a spring, just has this thing. Dip it into a bottle of ink without the cap on it, of course. Push this down. I'm not going to do that because, as you can see, it's filled with ink. Pull it out, push it in, pull it out. Draws up little spurts of ink every time. Fantastic, really nice system. A little bit more finicky to clean, but it's not another cartridge converter. I quite like that, so that's really neat. Another pen, and this one was sent to me to review, but that I've ended up really enjoying, is this pen made by 54T. So this is I can't really show you because there's a non-translucent ink in it, but it is a variation on the Con-Ed filling system. So Con-Ed, love it. Cusado, loved it. of these systems, maybe not my favorite, but I do like the QSAO system. And Roy here designed another variation on that system that I like a lot. It's a little bit more complicated if you don't know it. Maybe watch my review, right, or I explain it. I don't want to take up too much time here. But it's a seal at the end of the barrel, a rod. You kind of connect that to the seal, you push it in, you pull it out, draws up ink, and then you screw that rod back in place again. That seal stays on top of the barrel. So there is a lot of ink capacity. I guess I did explain the whole thing. Sorry. But that to me is exciting too. Cool variations. We see more and more variations on that system, but it's cool. And I don't mean this in a bad way. Variations on a system can be a very good thing. I think it's very exciting. And to me, it's very exciting to see people run with the system and play with it. Brian Gray did not invent the pneumatic filling system on this pen, but he tinkered with it and he came up with something that to me works very well. Think of the I think it was Chilton pens initially, which is a vintage brand, but you see it on some of the Armando Simoni club pens, like the Bologna Extra. You see it on some of the Magna Carta Elements pens. It's a sort of a sack, a tube around that sack, and then sort of another pneumatic type system where you pull out a tube, you push it back in, that compresses and then decompresses the sack, fills with ink. I think that's very exciting. I want to emphasize again, nothing wrong with the cartridge converter. I have many, I use them, I like using them. It's just that if I had the choice, I would maybe pick something a little bit more exotic. Notice also the huge ink capacity in a pen like this. That entire barrel is basically filled with ink, right? So I find that very exciting. So as I have been pondering this a lot, those are the three things I look for in a pen that I might want to consider purchasing. Does it write well? Well, then I don't know until I hold it and ink it up, really. But does it look nice? Do I find it aesthetically appealing? Because if I do, I may want to have it because I find it a very attractive object. And does it have an interesting filling system? None of these three things on themselves are deal breakers, because if you have a pen that doesn't write well, you can send it to a Nibmeister. I'm not trying to like get Nibmeisters out of a job. They do fantastic work, so that can be fixed. A filling system, well, if it's not a fancy filling system, that's okay. Again, I have many cartridge converter systems. There's nothing wrong with that. And if it's hideous, I just wouldn't buy it, would I? So that's a pretty easy one to solve. But there you have it. I hope I haven't bored you to death, but I get questions about that a lot. What is your process in selecting a pen you may want to buy? That's it, right there. And then if I can support a small pen maker in the process, then I try to do that, because I think that's nice. But again, I don't buy that much anymore, because I can have what I want. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye!